Hi, I'm Yue Xu.
And I'm Julie Kraftchick.
We're active daters turned dating insiders.
Here to dive into everything modern dating and relationships.
Welcome to DATEABLE. Hello, friends.
Welcome back to another episode of DATEABLE.
We are going to be discussing striking the balance between magic, serendipity, and then being strategic and intentional, because we want both. But then there is a fine line between when is it too much waiting for that magic to happen and when are you being too strategic?
I'm so glad that we're diving into this topic because I feel like we keep alluding to it. We're like, the magic is missing in dating and everything's a date review. It's so like dating is another job. It's work. But I also think just going in with no plan is not a plan either. Because I feel like for years I was not intentional in dating and I'm just like, I'll just see who likes me and I'll just go with it. And that was not a good strategy either. So I'm really glad that we're like going there because I think this tension of both is where dating does break down for people because, you know, you have too much magic thinking is chaotic and then too much strategy kills attraction.
And unfortunately, at this moment in time, everybody sits at opposite sides of the spectrum.
Yes, it's like one or the other.
Yeah, you either get the people who've opted out of dating and said, I'll just wait for things to happen. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. I will attract the things to happen and deliver to my front door. Or you get the people who got the checklists, spreadsheets, algorithms, AI working for them and being very strategic and intentional about finding their partner. And we totally understand why, because you're getting two schools of thought in everything that we see in media. It's always like, manifest, leave it to the universe when the stars align. Or the other one that's like, be more intentional, really have a strategy, a goal in mind, work towards your goals. So that's why we have this great divide today.
So I wanted to talk about some of the myths on both, because I think when you hear serendipity, it equals no effort. Like if it's meant to happen, it will. Like some of the stuff you were just saying, I'll just wait and I'll meet one person a year and maybe that person will be my soulmate. Not a good strategy. But I think like because of that, if you're in that mentality, you're not actually going on dates. You're not meeting new people. You're not putting yourself in environments that are conducive. We're not saying that you need to like date like it's your job or spend every second thinking about dating. In fact, we often talk about deep centering dating and that you can still meet someone. But I think the key with all of this is you still have to put yourself in positions where you could be open to meeting someone, or it's just magical thinking. You're really not even leaving the room for magic. You're just eliminating it.
Yeah, the serendipity myth is that you are the passenger, right? Like you just get in this car, you don't know where it's going, and just relax, take a nap, see what happens. But for true magic to really happen, serendipity, I think the definition of the word is when timing aligns and something magical happens. For that to happen, you still have to take accountability for some actions to happen. You have control over some things. So instead of getting in a car that you don't know where it's going and just sitting in the passenger seat, you are still in the driver's seat going towards somewhere that is intentional and strategic. But what happens along the way, you have no control of. That's where the serendipity can happen.
I think the other big myth with serendipity is that you get so focused on the story and something feels like unexpected or magical or out of nowhere that you think it means that it's right. And that is not true at all. I know for me, I've been there before where I met someone where I least expected it. I didn't think it was going to happen. And I got very attached to that. Like it was meant to be that we were put together. And instead of being like, oh, they're actually not stable or they're inconsistent, like actually having critical thinking. So I think we need to make sure that we're here for the story and we're like living our lives, but we're not making like every plot twist think like it's like part of this story that needs to unfold. Maybe that's not our story, and that's okay.
Have you seen the movie I Am Pretty, I Feel Pretty with Amy Schumer?
Yeah.
Which one is
Yep.
it? I just watched it. I just rewatched it last night. And I think that movie really demonstrates this myth so well. Because in the movie, if you're not familiar with it, Amy Schumer is this average girl, and she's like, all I want to be is beautiful. She is in a soul cycle class, falls, has a concussion, and wakes up, and she looks the same, but she thinks she is now beautiful. And she's like, oh my God, look at my arms, look at my abs, look at my face. So then she shows up to the world very differently, even though she looks exactly the same. And all these unexpected things start happening. Like she's in line at the dry cleaners, and this guy's like, oh, what's your number in terms of like number to be served next? And she's like, oh, what a cute way to get my number. You know, and I think it's the reframe of what are the unexpected things that could happen based on how you show up in the world. It has nothing to do with how you look or who you are, like status-wise. It is how you show up.
With serendipity, though, everyone thinks it should be immediate. Like it should be like immediately I just was head over heels and fell in love and liked the movies. I'm sure in that movie, I like can't really remember that movie fully, but I'm sure she like meets someone
so
just like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's meant to be. And I think like we go into that mentality in dating a lot. Like that's the serendipitous brain that's coming through, the romantic at heart. This is why, dating is so difficult in the sense that you go to one date and people write people off immediately is because you expect like instant clarity, like this is my person. And I think that we need to get rid of in this mindset of how are we going to use serendipity and strategy. We need to be like open to the moments, but not expect that every moment is going to be like instantly clear from like the second we enter it.
And the serendipity doesn't happen the way it does in movies. It's not John Cusack picking up your glove and being like, I have the other one, or whatever that scene was in Serendipity. It doesn't happen as dramatic, but we are if we're attuned to our environments, then we can see serendipitous events. But most of us are heads down, not thinking about these small moments of connection that we can absolutely label as serendipity.
Yeah. The other big things too, though, are that we can't see it as one-sided. Like I think a lot of times like, oh, this is unexpected. It's magic. Like I feel the chemistry. I feel the possibility, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the right relationship either. And we can stay too long in these situations that aren't serving us because we feel like they're serendipitous. So I think, again, we all need a little more dreamer in us. Like the dreamers that have taken our archetype quiz get it. So as for the dreamers, we need to come back to earth a little. But everyone else maybe needs a little dreamer in them. But we still need to balance it, again, with the strategy that we're going to go into on here. Again, it's not neither one is right or wrong. It's like, how do we bring the right amount into dating?
And the story is romantic. We love a meet cute story. We love these stories of, oh, we lived next to each other when we were kids and then we reconnected later in life. Like we love these stories and they get told because they're so interesting. But also know that that's not what the majority experiences. And these relationships that don't have these meet cute stories are equally, if not more successful with higher satisfaction, etc. So let's not be so married to the story when the rest of your relationship doesn't live up to it.
Yeah, I love that. I want to go into like how, we still need to be conscious of bringing too much strategy in. But before we do, let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors.
If there's one thing I'm prioritizing right now, it's sleep. Because when my sleep is off, oh, everything's off. My mood, my energy, how I show up in my relationships. So this is where Avocado Green Mattress has sleep all figured out. Their certified organic mattresses are specifically designed to relieve pressure points, support your body the way it needs, and help you actually get the deep, restorative sleep you've been missing. Every mattress is made with thoughtfully sourced materials and built with real care, so you can get incredible sleep night after night. Now, when I invest in something I use every single day, I want it to be made with real care, not just mass-produced. Avocado Green Mattress is exactly that. Supportive, comfortable, and thoughtfully crafted. It's a long-term investment that actually feels like one. Avocado products are made, not manufactured, and thoughtfully crafted with real materials to deliver lasting comfort and support. Go to avocadogreenmattress.com/dateable to check out their mattress and furniture sale. That's avocadogreenmattress.com/DATEABLE. avocadogreenmattress.com/dateable.
For all my fantasy romance lovers, there is a book for you to check out called Reign of Shadows and Endings by Melissa K. Rorick. It was an instant New York Times bestseller and started as a huge indie book talk hit. So if you've seen people raving online, this is the book. If you love dark romantasy, this one delivers. It's got fae, dragons, gods, shifters, vampires, basically everything you want, plus a really unique twist with modern technology woven into the fantasy world. It truly felt like you were being transported into a new world as I was reading this, which, to be honest, was the relief I needed for the crazy world we're living in. What I really liked too was that this series emphasizes mental health as the female main character is battling depression and anxiety, which ends up being a major plot point for the book. It's on sale now, so if you've been looking for your next fantasy binge, this is it. You can find Reign of Shadows and Endings by Melissa K. Rorick wherever books are sold in print and ebook. I think on the flip side, though, we talked about, getting too serendipitous. We see the people that are too strategic. And I think dating is one of those areas that it doesn't work like other parts of life that you could put in 10,000 hours and get zero back. Like, it's not one of those situations where the more work and more effort I put in, the more likely I'll be to meet someone. I think it's hard for us to process that a lot of times. Like, we're used to our careers. Like, we do all the work. We, show up. We put in the effort. We learn. We do all the things. It means that we'll get to an outcome. But in dating and love and relationships, that's not the whole picture. And I think with strategy, there's a line. Again, we want people to go in with intention, with a plan, not just see what happens and waste all their time. But also when you get too rigid and you're like over filtering on apps and you're not giving anyone a chance because they don't meet some, imaginary person you've concocted in your brain, then that's not going to set you up for success either. And we see this a lot now. I would argue that we see more people, at least from our podcast and the people that tend to be more of the thinker in the, listening to podcasts and trying to learn all the things they can. We see a lot of people trending a little too much strategy nowadays.
And you're also being fed all of this online. I will get on Instagram. It's like 5 steps to find your husband. Here's how I found the love of my life in 2 months. There's a lot of these tactics out there. And although it could work for one person, doesn't mean it's going to work for someone else. But what we get so fixated on when it comes to strategy is the step by step. Very granular. What's next? How many dates? How long should I wait? What should I say? What's the script? When we forget we're trying to get to this bigger picture goal and we lose sight of that. And that's why we get so lost in just the granular steps.
I'm so glad we're having this conversation. I keep saying that, but I really am. And I think this is why, is because we used to be like this, right? When the book, The Rules and all this stuff came out that was very rigid. And then we realized that didn't work. We weren't authentic. We weren't showing up in a way that actually was conducive for connection. It was like this shell of us being presented. And then it's almost like women's empowerment happened. We swung to hookup culture. We almost went to like the all serendipity and like no strategy. And I'm just going to see what happens. And we even in our, 10-year anniversary episode that we did at the top of this season, that if you haven't listened to, go back and listen. We talked about like the biggest changes from 10 years ago to now when we first started this podcast. And we were both saying that it felt like we were going on more dates. We were not overthinking as much. And yes, some of those dates ended up with people we'd never want to end up in a partnership with, but we were still having experiences. And I think we've almost swung again too far, that we're so cautious of everything that we're not having dates. We're not having experiences. We're just staying like in text and dating app limbo on our phones and not actually meeting people in person. And that's why everyone's so burnt out. And that is not the solution either. So I'm not advocating that we go back to hookup culture or not being open of what we're actually looking for. But I do think this is why we need to balance the serendipity with strategy and not just lean one or the other. I think leaning one or the other is what caused us to like flip-flop back and forth so much.
And the myth with just being really intentional with strategy in dating is that you think that you're going to get the outcome that you're looking for, and you think your standards are higher, right? Yeah. When people are like, oh, I have a strategy, I have all these filters, and I have a list. It becomes this cycle of like, nobody's good enough because I'm picky. I have really high standards. And then it gets you in the same, really, if you have too much strategy versus too much magic, you're both in the same spot, which is inaction. Nothing is happening. And that's also why we see all this inaction in dating today, because of this polarity.
And for the record, we still believe dating is not a numbers game. To be strategic, you don't need to be lining up your calendar on back-to-back dates. In fact, I think that's actually harming people. You do not need to be guarded and to hold back or play it cool or not show interest. Like, that is not the strategy we're talking about. Like, we're talking about being authentic, bringing all the stuff that we know actually builds connection, not losing that. It's more of just like, we're going to, know what to focus on and what not to, and see the signs that someone's not a good partner for us, and be aware of the things that are important in partnership and not just surface level traits that don't actually do anything. And have that awareness. If you've been with us for long enough on this podcast, we hope that you're already like super strong in this area. We believe you probably are. So it's like, how do we bring that strategy of still going in with a plan and having boundaries and setting the proper expectations and, doing the thing, but not being so strategic that we've lost all the magic in dating?
The dichotomy of the two sides is magic is about the I don't know, and strategy is about the I know. And you're pressured in both ways. In strategy, if you're too strategic, you're pressured to know right away because I know myself, I know what I'm looking for. And therefore, you give people not enough time. You don't let things linger enough. In magic, it's the opposite. I don't know. Maybe I'll just let this linger and let it play out. And then you stay in things for way too long. But I often think about the woman we had on our show who did the 5-minute coffee dates. She was definitely over-indexed on strategy. Yeah. And she just thought in 5 minutes over a cup of coffee, she would know if someone was right for her. I get that sometimes you get the instant vibe of someone, but how do you really know if someone's a good partner in 5 minutes? And that's where the strategy part is very dangerous because you are forced to make that decision right away.
I think this was a good way to sum it up is like, how do I consistently put myself in high quality situations and respond to what unfolds? Yeah. I was trying to think of like, what is that thing that you can do? What is that lever? And it's to put yourself in good situations. So that means like, when someone's showing you that they are not the right type of partner for you, like they're only hitting you up last minute, or they're saying they don't want a real relationship and you do, that's not putting yourself in a high quality situation. So to me, that's like an element of strategy. Like, okay, I can keep entertaining this, but it's not ultimately going to get me to where I am. Or I could be like, this isn't what I'm looking for. This person
Yes.
is not aligned with my like values and my dating intentions. I'm going to go find someone else that is. That to me is like not over indexing, like I need to like manipulate and control the situation. It's just taking it for what it is. But you're still being strategic and realizing like I can make a move, and the move I'm
Yes.
choosing is to leave the situation.
Yeah, I love that you said putting yourself in high quality situations. Another way of putting that is how do you structure your time? How do you structure your environment? Structure the conditions in your life for serendipity to happen. And it just sounds so contradictory, but the serendipity, true, meaningful serendipity and magic only happens when you have the right structure for it.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. Like, I think saying yes to activities that you might not normally say yes to, or invitations. I think back on like some of the nights that I like didn't expect to go a certain way.
Yeah.
And it's because I didn't control every minute of it. I just kind of like let the night take us and see what happened. And that's the part of dating I really miss, of just like, what's going to happen next? Like, who am I going to meet? How's
Yeah.
this going to unfold? And even just having that mentality going in, we see people going in, and I've been like this before as well, of like another date, another one that's not going to work out. That is such a different way of entering a date than who am I going to meet tonight? I can't wait to see what unfolds.
Yes. And in those moments, you've created those conditions for connections to happen. And your probability is higher in those conditions versus sitting at home. But you could also, if someone's like, hey, do you want to go to this silent retreat with me for 3 days? Maybe that may not be the best conditions to connect and meet someone.
Or it is. Who knows?
Or it is. Actually, I had a college friend, Yvonne, who met her husband at a silent retreat.
You never know.
They started talking after the retreat was over. They were like, we were making eyes at each other, but we couldn't talk. But you know what serves you. And then to turn it back around on you, it's like, do you actually want to go do this thing and have a good time doing it? That's the most important part of it all.
That's why I thought the run clubs was like the most absurd dating strategy I've ever heard. Like, if you like running, go for it.
Yes.
By all means. But if you are just enduring pain because you think this is like a way to meet people and it's like your strategy of the week, are you going to show up like the person that anyone wants to meet? No. You might as well have just stayed home at that point.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're miserable, like the two girls I saw at a run club the other day, they were like, when the fuck is this going to end?
You're not meeting anyone there. No.
Who's going to come approach you? I'm sorry.
So I think in summary, at least before we get into like how to actually use this, the goal isn't choosing one or the other. We're not saying go serendipity, go strategy. Hopefully that's been clear by now. It's assigning each of these a job. Like one of them, strategy. How do I get into the right situations, the right rooms, the right places? In serendipity, what's going to happen once I get there?
Okay. So let's go into how you can create the strategy that creates the best environment for serendipity and magic to happen. And strategy is where you can be intentional, but it's not intentional about the step by step. It's intentional about what is the outcome that you're looking for, like the general outcome. The strategy can be around, I want to have fun tonight. The strategy can be around, want to build a life with someone. Like that's not the step-by-step granularity, but let's create that big picture first.
It's the inputs that you're putting in, like who you swipe on. Like, are they aligned with your values and your lifestyle and your relationship goals? Like, where do you spend your time? Like, are you actually putting yourself in places that you could meet someone? And how are you balancing that with other parts of your life? So, like, you're not at the run club being miserable while doing that. You're putting your best energy forward in those situations because the way you show up, the energy you exude is one of the most important factors. And I think we often discount this in dating strategy. We're so focused on like where to go and what to say and what to do. But the vibe you're putting out there in terms of how you show up, but then also once you start meeting people and being able to like communicate clearly or say like, okay, this isn't okay with me. This isn't behavior that I want in my life. Like being able to understand your non-negotiables and things that really matter to you. Having that awareness and clarity before you get into situations help you navigate them once you're in them.
And I would even argue that strategy is more holistic than just dating and relationships. And it's almost, I kind of feel like strategy is based on your values. If you know your values and you're strong in them, then the magic that happens will absolutely be aligned within the values that you live by. So I think about the most magical trip I ever had was to Greece when I was getting over, the heartbreak. And it was so magical because the strategy of that trip was I'm going to have fun. I'm going to live my best life. And whatever happens on this cruise, I'm just going to say yes. I'm going to say yes to these things. And I wasn't so focused on meeting someone or hooking up with someone. Things happened that were not in my control, that were magical. But the strategy was, I want this to be a very holistic view of how I want to live my life.
I'm glad that you said that example because I actually think that has a lot of intention in it without being so outcome focused. Because I think a lot of people are just like, I'm going on a vacation or I'm going to like get over heartbreak. And like, there's not really this like, this is what I'm going to do when they're like, I'm going to say yes to opportunities or I'm going to, really savor every moment or whatever you're setting out to do. I think having some of that leading you, like the leading is really important. Like I remember like last time around when I was dating, I was like, I got really clear that like someone consistent was important. Like I needed consistency. And a lot of that came from a past relationship that was anything but consistent. And there were times that I got tested that someone started off consistent and they weren't. And I think the old me without strategy and this awareness would be like, I'll just give them another chance and I'll see where this goes. And maybe they're busy today. But I was like, no, I actually really want someone that's going to prioritize finding a relationship. It doesn't mean they have to spend every second with me, but it means that they have to show up and communicate if they're not able to show up proactively. Like I'm not like hunting people down or, waiting around by my phone. And I think by doing that and really placing this emphasis on, I want someone that's prioritizing me and this connection and finding a relationship and being committed to a relationship, it allowed me to remove the people that weren't. And that was strategy. Again, it's not forcing them to behave a certain way. It's just saying like, hey, it's clear that we're not on the same page. I'm removing myself from the situation.
And that's such a good example of finding clarity, because I think going back to magic, we think clarity comes from being a sitting duck and someone showing up, be like, here I am, I'm the right one. And you go, boo, 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 yeah, that's it. I don't know why I made that noise. That boo, 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 boo.
It's the serendipity, the fake serendipity.
But the strategy that you just mentioned is the clarity in knowing what you know. I do know this about me. I do know I want to be prioritized. I do know I want consistency. And then the magic is you don't know who's going to show up to meet all those things. And the clarity comes from the alignment and misalignment. And it was so clear to you when someone was misaligned. Because right then you're like, yep, that's woo, woo, woo. That's clear. This is not the right person for me.
That's why I think it's good to be like, I want a relationship, if that's what you want. Like, I think that's good. But the part where it becomes problematic, as someone that's been here, is when you take that want and force it on people.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, I will make this work with this person at all costs, and I will be in a relationship with them when they've shown you like no reason that they should be in a relationship, and they're capable of a relationship and they have the capacity for one. The better way is, to let the right person find themselves into that, which is the serendipity and magic.
And here's a word of caution. The universe, going back to magic, the universe will only deliver to you what is the most clear. But if you still allow someone in your space who you are not aligned with as a placeholder, for example, the people who've said, I'll keep dating this person, they're not right for me, but, at least it's someone until I do meet that person who is right for me, the universe thinks that space is already taken, and they're not going to deliver to you what you want. So even if you're crystal clear on what you want and the values that you have and the strategy that you have, you also have to be crystal clear on who you do not allow into your space because of that strategy.
Oh my God, your actions and words need to align. We see this a lot. It does not happen.
Yes.
I want to go into how you can do that, and then how from that you can have these like emergent outcomes that happen from this serendipity. But before we do, let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors. I've been all about building an intentional wardrobe, leaning into pieces that are timeless, comfortable, and look put together. When I have all my go-to staples, it just makes getting dressed that much simpler. And you all know that Quince is my absolute favorite place to get fabrics that feel elevated and fits that are flattering. My latest obsession is their short sleeve cashmere shirts. I bought 2 in different colors, a pale pink and yellow. Both go so well with the pants I also have from Quince, and I've been wearing this combo everywhere. Their cashmere is so soft, and I can't get over the price. Everything at Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. Refresh your every day with luxury you'll actually use. Head to quince.com/dateable for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/dateable for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/dateable.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and Talkspace, the leading virtual therapy provider, is sharing the message that connection is crucial because good relationships are an essential and sometimes overlooked component of mental well-being. If your relationships could use some strengthening, a licensed therapist from Talkspace can help. Therapy can help you communicate better with loved ones, repair conflicts, and understand how to address loneliness and build community. It's easy to sign up. Just go to Talkspace.com and you'll be paired with a therapist within 2 days. You'll meet with your therapist online on your schedule. Plus, Talkspace is in-network with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. Make personal connections a priority and start today. If you're not covered by insurance, get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80. That's SPACE80. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80.
One of the misuses of serendipity and magic is that we want things to feel natural and organic. We don't want to force anything. But that's also when we let the wrong people linger. That's when we only date people who are available and interested. We're not also the ones doing the picking. We ignore clear incompatibilities because why not? This feels organic. This feels good. And we let ambiguous situations go on for way too long because we can always reason it back to this is the natural way. I don't want to force anything. But in those circumstances, related back to what we were just talking about, is that your space is already taken and there's no room for the right connections to happen. And as much as we want things to feel organic, you have to create the right structure and environment for the right organic connections to happen.
So thinking back on your day-to-day life, what were some of those times where you felt that like right organic connection? I think for me, obviously I'll say my husband, just meeting him. And I think a big part of that though too was I actually re-listen to the episode we did with Jeff Harry of making dating fun again. Or I think we maybe recorded it right before it. I don't know. It was fresh in my mind, whatever it was. And prior to that, I had like taken this break from dating after like finally ending things with an ex of mine. And then I got back in. This was all over COVID. It was like January of 2021. I kind of like got back to California and I was like, okay, I'm getting back into dating. And the first couple dates that I went on, I think I like took a little too much of like my podcast brain. And I was like talking about like schemas with one guy and like childhood wounds and like all this stuff. And it was like, it wasn't like a bad conversation, but it kind of felt like a little forced. You know, it wasn't like a date interview. I wasn't like looking for a specific answer, but I was kind of being like, how aware is this guy? And like, you know, what is his wounds and what's that going to do for me later? Like getting way ahead of myself. And I think by toning that down and bringing a little more of the fun, organic energy to the date of just like, I'm here to just meet another person and see what happens and see where this night goes. And that really changed how I showed up with my husband because I was myself. I was like I would be if I was like out with a friend that I really jived with. And like the whole date, we weren't struggling for conversation. Like it just kind of kept going and like moving in different directions. And it felt really natural. And I think that's where the magic was that was missing in some of these more like scripted convos of like, what do I say and what do I ask and what do I find out so there's no red flags or icks or deal breakers?
Yeah. I think I index on the opposite end. That's why I think most of my connections have been these like organic, what happens, whatever happens, happens, aimless connections. And the best one I can think of was the guy we met at Booty. I was 35, this kid was 25, and we met at Booty SF, which is an after-hours club in San Francisco.
You love
Could you call
that
it an
place.
after-hours? Would you call it an after-hours club? I don't even know what to call it.
It stayed open till like 4. It was
4,
pretty late.
yeah. So people go after hours.
It got weird after 2.
Yes. After 1, it's like a whole different crowd. And I remember just like dancing next to this guy, and it was like fun to connect with him, find out he's 10 years younger. Who cares? We end up like hooking up, and then we like try to date, and it was like going over to his house with like his roommate, and there's just shit everywhere because they live like 25-year-old bachelors. And I just kept like reasoning to myself, well, there's a reason why we met that night. There's a reason why we connected. And I did that for so many years. All of these organic connections are like, there's a reason the universe brought us together. But I had no clear intentions moving forward. And all of these relationships eventually disappeared. And that's what fucked me up, was that because there was no clear start, there was also no clear end. And I couldn't really get out of that environment. You know, it was just, everything's just lingering. Everyone's still at play. And so I actually needed to bring in more structure into my dating so that there is some defined moments. So you know when you are in a relationship and you know when you're not in a relationship.
That's really interesting. And that's definitely like your dating patterns. And I have another friend like this too. Like I feel like every partner was like a friend first, or like someone that just kind of like developed into more. And I think like, not to put words in your mouth, but I do think like you actually had a better balance of serendipity and strategy the last time around too.
Absolutely.
Because you weren't like, you didn't go to meeting your partner and being like you thought like, oh, it's just like some guy I'm just like reconnecting with, like a professional contact. Like you didn't view him that way. But then you were like, oh, I'm intrigued. I'm open to it. But then you didn't just fall into it. You're like, okay, are we aligned? Are we looking for similar things? Like you knew that there were like some questions to ask. It wasn't just like, oh my God, it just happened and here I am and now we're in a relationship. Like I remember with your ex, you were just like one day you're like, we're just in a relationship. Like we went on a 3-hour dog walk and now we're in a relationship. I'm like, what?
Exactly. Yes. And I think it is me following the I knows and then I don't knows. The I knows are our values are aligned. I feel something. And the I don't knows is I don't know if this is going anywhere. I don't know if this is a person for me, but I'm willing to give it a try and spend more time. In the past, I always just felt like cornered. Like, I know this is a connection because we met organically at Booty SF, and there's a reason why we met, like, I know this is a person for me. I didn't follow any of the curiosity of finding out if that's true or not. So it's a really fine balance between the two.
I just had a revelation is that I think when you meet people in real life, you tend to err more on the serendipity.
Yes.
Then when you meet someone online on a dating app, you tend to go more to strategy. And I think that's actually why neither of them really work out. And of course, there's always exceptions to both. I'm not saying like, nothing works out. But more times than not, at least in my experience, I don't want to speak for everyone, you would go out and meet people just like randomly in bars and you would never see them again. Like, that's why I was so excited when dating apps came out, because I'm like, finally, more structure, and maybe I'll see this person again. And it's just not like this fleeting moment. But then with dating apps, it got so rigid that everyone hates dating.
Yes.
And it's painful. And I think for me, people are always like, how did you meet your partner on a dating app? Like, it's this like urban myth. And I think it's because I brought that serendipity energy into a more strategic setting. And was able to have that balance of like, I'm very clear of what I'm looking for. Not going to ignore blatant signs of things I'm not looking for, but I'm also going to just see how this person unfolds and recognize that like, I don't know after one date. I'm just meeting them. And like, let me see who they are and how we jive.
And what I love about the way you met your partner, your husband, is it was during COVID when you're forced into a state of unknown. There was so many unknowns. Is it still locked down? Can we take off our masks? So you two were able to navigate a lot of serendipity together in a structured environment, knowing that you're both still interested in each other. And I think that's kind of like the fun of dating that we don't do anymore post-COVID and even pre-COVID is that people think, well, there's someone next. Like I can just go find someone with a better connection and I can go on a different app. But if you're forced to sit in serendipity and magic, then maybe the serendipity and magic does happen.
So how do you feel about physical stuff? Because I think in my situation, that was almost stripped away. Like I went to that date being like, I have no intention of kissing this person. I have no intention of like flirting and touching or doing all the things, right? Whether I like them or not. It was a non-thing. And I know for me in the past, even on a dating app date, I would like go out and one thing would lead to another, get drunk, have a hot makeout. And then I feel like all the strategy would be out the window. Like I'd be like, I'm in love and just think that this is the thing. And it almost, swung more to that like in real life chance encounter meeting that had a lot of those values because it went there, where I think I was able to be a little more slower paced and strategic this time around because that wasn't there. But I also do think those were the moments in dating that were very magical and fun. Like I remember like shutting down a bar with someone I did end up dating, the guy that had to leave the US, that ended up being something. But I remember just like being outside and like having this like hot and steamy makeout and just like those moments are so magical.
They are. And they serve their purpose. But then we can't like hold on to that as being sustainable in a relationship. And that's where we get convoluted in like, what is connection? What is chemistry? So I was reading this research by National Marriage Project Survey where they surveyed 2,000 married couples. And the couples that reported highest levels of satisfaction had slow burn in their relationship, meaning there was less physical attraction and less physical activity in the beginning. And then I thought this was really interesting that the way they put it. They're like, when you think about your connection, is your magic free or did you have to pay for it? In terms of like, if you like those hot makeout sessions after a few drinks, that magic is free. It's just given. So those connections actually kind of disappear faster because it's free magic. But if you are slow burn, you're kind of like working for it, paying for the magic. That magic is more sustainable because you know how to recreate it.
That's really interesting. I want to get into actually the last part of this convo because I think it really plays to that is like we want to give you like a very clear way to think about this as you're dating. I don't want to say rigid and I don't want to say step by step, but something that gives you a little more like, I don't know, just ties it all together so it's actionable. We'll say that. But before we do, let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors.
We talk a lot on Dateable about being present in dating, but let's be real. That's hard when your phone is basically a third wheel. Enter Brick. Brick is a simple device that helps you put your phone down when you actually want to be in the moment. You just pair your phone to Brick and it locks you out of distracting apps, and suddenly you're not doom scrolling while your date is telling a story about their childhood dog. Whether you're on a first date, having a real conversation, or just trying to stop checking your phone every 30 seconds, Brick creates boundaries with your tech without asking you to delete everything or go full digital detox. Dating is about connection, not notifications. So if you want to be more present and honestly more attractive, check out Brick. Go to getbrick.app/dateable to get 10% off. That's getbrick.app/DATEABLE to get 10% off.
Okay, so how do you balance both? I think like the first part of dating, the discovery part, is strategy heavy. Like that you should have intention as you're swiping on people and meeting people, like asking better questions early on and really like trying to find alignment. Like if you know you don't want to ever have kids, don't go date someone that has 3 kids. You know, like there should be some like basic level of strategy here. Or if I know I want to be in a relationship, like I'm not going to hang on to someone who's like unsure of what they want. I think that is pivotal to kind of like set yourself up from the jump on a good note.
Yes. And it's also being very clear about your values. So when someone's aligned, it's light bulb. And when someone isn't aligned, also light bulb.
And you don't have to have like this laundry list of traits. If you've read How to Be Dateable, you know that we are not for that. But I do think having like non-negotiables, for me, it could be like something like a non-negotiable is they say they're not ready for commitment.
Yes.
That could be the non-negotiable. I think it's essential. That is a strategy that needs to happen at the beginning, or you're just going to end up getting emotionally invested in the wrong people.
Yes. And then in the middle, it's also okay to have the I don't knows. Some of you could be like, I don't know if I want kids. I don't know if I want to stay in the city. The I don't knows are the perfect opportunity for exploration with this person. If everything else aligns, explore the I don't knows. That's your green light to go on another date with this person.
And the I don't knows doesn't even have to be like stuff that you want. It could just be like, I don't know fully if this is my person. I don't know if we're fully aligned, but I'm open, and every date I'm having a little more fun, and I'm just going to stay present. And that is the serendipity heavy part is they have kind of gotten through that like screen of like the real non-negotiables and the things that really matter. And now we're going to explore this connection. And I don't need to decide. We hear people all the time being like, I don't know on date 3 if I like them or not. It's okay. Like this is part of the dating process. Like they're not going to be offended. Like as long as you're doing it with intention of getting to know them better and not like an ill intention of leading them on or screwing them over, then it's okay to go on another date to see if this could be something.
Yes. And so if you're going on a road trip, the strategy is, you know what kind of car you're driving.
Yeah.
You know what road you prefer driving on. You kind of know where you're going. And then the second phase of this is the road trip itself, which is the exploration phase. You've already set the conditions. Now what happens on your road trip? No idea. Who knows? There could be detours.
Maybe I'll stop at this place that looks really cool on the way. Yeah, I love it.
Yes. Or someone could hitch a ride, or there could be a restaurant that wasn't on your plan list, but you're intrigued and you're curious. As long as you're staying on the same road, the same path, staying in your car that you built for this condition, then it's okay to wander off a little bit and go explore.
I really like thinking about running dates like experiments and not evaluations because, the date review. And like everyone's been on that evaluation date where someone's like scanning for all the flaws or like you're comparing the person to some ideal in your head. and you're trying to
Yes.
decide, like, is it a yes or a no? Like, that does not feel good to be on the receiving end. And it's not a fun date at all. And there's no curiosity. I think that's the piece that's missing when it's too strategy focused and too like analytical. Like, there needs to be this room for, I'm curious of who you are as a person and like what version of you is going to show up if I give it a little space.
Yes. And then experiment with how you show up. Like, everybody is so reactive to the
Yeah.
vibes around them. So if you show up just slightly a little different, see what that happens in the other person. And sometimes you get to see a whole different side.
I think I just think of that first date, the one I said about the makeout at the end.
Yeah.
But it was such a good date. And this was with like the British guy that ended up having to leave. But like the first part of it, we were just talking about like pranks that we'd pulled on friends. And I could have been in my head and been like, I got to find out their life plan. I need to find out like what their past relationship did to them. I need to find out like, is this person serious? And like deviated the conversation and like cut off that magic that started to like come to be.
Unfold,
Yeah. But I think by letting it just play out in this like organic way that felt like you were catching up with a friend, like, first of all, chemistry built because you were like into the conversation, you were laughing, you were, it was just more fun than getting grilled on a date. No one likes that. And the thing is, eventually all that stuff came out. It doesn't need to happen like right away. And I learned that on my date with my now husband too. Like, I didn't need to ask him his attachment style on date one and his schemas. Like, I just needed to like see, do I even like this person?
Yeah.
And then like you get to know them and you get to see it. And the strategy also can be like, date one, I had a really good time, but date three, they told me they're really not into something serious. Time to leave.
Cut it. Yeah, exactly. The first date doesn't have to be that crazy at all. Like, you don't need to know everything about them.
No.
I always say your first date like you're on vacation, because your mindset is so different when you are plucked from your normal day to day. I remember this date I went on in Finland, obviously dating on vacation. And I remember being so curious about his day to day, even though his day to day was very similar to mine, like someone in the US. But I was like, oh my God, yeah. So what time do you have breakfast? And like, what kind of breakfast do you like to have? These are not questions I would ask someone stateside, but I just had immense curiosity for this person. So we can bring that into our first dates. That's where the magic will happen. And also the other person will feel like this is a very refreshing conversation for a first date.
I think because we're leaning so strategy heavy in today's dating world with dating apps, we expect that instantaneous clarity of like yes or no, but we miss out on great partners because we expect the instant clarity instead of unfolding clarity. And I think this is where strategy returns, is as you're dating them, like what I was saying earlier of like, maybe date one was magical, but instead of holding on to that, being like, since then, communication hasn't been great. Since then, they told me they're not really over their ex. Since then, they told me they're not ready for something serious. Those are all signs where the strategy needs to return. And I think this is where a lot of people miss it, is now the like hormones are in and we're intrigued and we're in love or feeling like attached to a situation and the outcome, that we like abandon strategy completely. And this to me is one of the biggest mistakes. At least looking back on my dating life, if there was one thing I would have done differently, it would be this.
Going back to the road trip analogy, it's the same thing. If you feel like you come upon an area that's feeling unfamiliar and maybe a little bit dangerous territory, on a road trip, you always want to plan like stops along the way.
Yeah.
You know these places. And a stop in dating is your friend group. It's going out to do something that you know you love to do. Go back to what you know and that you safely and that you love and enjoy, and then go decide on that gut feeling once you're in that safe zone. I think a lot of times we feel like, oh, this feels unfamiliar territory. Let's just drive into it and see what happens. And then you get burnt because you're like, oh, obviously I didn't listen to my gut here. So we just have to create that psychological safety first before we can decide if this is truly dangerous territory.
I think just from observing daters and our own patterns and people we know, either you bring the decision energy into exploration, you're too rigid too soon, or you tend to stay in this exploration forever, where there's no standards or no clarity.
Yeah.
And what we're saying is that the serendipity and strategy, it's a little more fluid. It's not just like it happens once and it goes away, or it never happens, or it's only this. Like we're saying to like weave them in and out. And the reality is your intuition tells you when
Yes.
things like feel it. Like I was talking to a friend about this. She was telling me about a situation, and it was like it started off really good and then it didn't, which is
Right.
all too familiar, right? And it's like
Yep.
you feel the switch, so you know something's off. But I
Yes.
think where you lean too serendipitous, if you stay and ignore that, and too strategic, maybe if like you weren't asking questions to begin with that got to
Yes.
this place in the first place.
Yes. Do you think that we all know that we are one way or the other? Like I know I lean more magic. You know, do you think people know?
No.
Okay.
I don't think people are aware, because I feel like, I don't know, I've talked to friends about this before. And even just like in our dating archetypes, I'm like, this person is such an energizer. And they're like, oh, I'm a total thinker. And then they'll take the
Yeah,
quiz
true.
and they'll be like, no, I guess I'm not. I do think we don't always see this in ourselves. At least
Mhm.
I know it took me many years to see it. And I also think at different stages of life, you might be different. And like I said earlier, if you're like meeting people in real life versus on apps, maybe different sides of you come out. So
Mhm.
I don't know if it's either like I'm this or I'm that. Maybe for some of us it is, but some of us it might be more situational too.
So here's an action item for all of you listening. If you haven't taken the dating archetype quiz, go do it now. You can just find dating archetypes quiz. You can Google that. Or you
It's
can go
also
to
on our website.
Yeah, it's also on our website. It's everywhere. And once you take that quiz, you know what archetype or archetypes you are. It'll be very clear to you which way you lean more. Once you figure out which way you lean more, always ask the question, how can I bring more of the other thing? Like, how can my friend who's very strategic, I gave her a rock that says magic on it. It's like, hold on to this rock and just say, how can I bring more magic into this situation? Because at least you'll be aware. You might not do anything, but like, oh, okay, now I'm aware that maybe I could infuse a little bit more serendipity here.
But I do think also you can think about different dating scenarios. And like we said, we're not saying don't use strategy ever, don't use serendipity ever, but like think about like the scenarios where you might be over indexing on one of them. And like, how do you bring more balance to both? For instance, if you have a mega list and you're screening every person and no one can get through, maybe too strategic.
Yeah.
You have no boundaries and everyone makes it through. Maybe not strategic enough. Like, how do you bridge it a little for all parts of like the dating cycle? Because it's like meeting people is just one piece of it. It goes way beyond that to like, okay, now I'm a couple dates in, feelings are starting to emerge. Now we need to talk about like next level of like deal breakers. Like, are we looking for the same thing? Are we aligned? Are we on the same page of what a relationship means to us? Like, there is a lot of stuff you need to be like conscious of. I think it goes back to conscious dating of like understanding yourself and what you want and not controlling an outcome. And like, how do you balance that in different stages?
Yep. Always ask yourself, what can I control here and what is out of my control? Because those are very clear. Yeah.
But as takeaways, we absolutely can bring more magic into dating. We've swung too far on the other side. I'm saying as a holistic dating culture, maybe you were like, no, I am so serendipitous and I don't do any of this. But also another opportunity to be like, am I meeting anyone by doing this? I remember we talked to someone when we were recording exit interview and they're like, well, we were like screening for people. They're like, well, I had one date last year. And we're like, okay, that doesn't help. It's like, you might be waiting forever. So it's like, I think at the end of the day, like take inventory of where you're at. Like we were saying, go through the different stages of dating and like, am I being strategic here? Am I being serendipitous? How do I merge that together? And then I'd say always look for the opportunity of serendipity when you can, and also bring yourself back down to earth at the same time.
Yes.
Of like, maybe it's not like I need to overanalyze every situation, but it could just be a simple question of like, does this feel good for me? Is this aligned with what I'm looking for?
This sounds like the perfect conversation you can have with our AI dating coach app. You can go to studio.com/dateable and you can have a full-on conversation with the AI
True.
that's trained by us. Do I need to infuse a little bit more magic or strategy? You can actually take the transcript of this episode, do that now, get this transcript, put it into that studio app, and then say, based on the episode and based on what you know about me, what can I bring more into my love life?
That's interesting. Because I think that could also help dissect like the day-to-day, like the little interactions that we don't always think about.
Exactly. Your nuances that you always write us novels about, guys. Like, but my situation's different. Well, now you can ask the app.
And of course, our entire book is built on getting clarity and bringing what it is I actually am looking for and knowing myself and all the stuff I will and will not stand for. So if you want that level set, make sure to go to howtobedateable.com. Huge sale right now on Amazon, so get it while it's hot.
And cheap.
And cheap.
All right, with that, we're going to wrap up this episode and see you all again next week. Stay dateable.